Sam C. Sam C. Oh, hey guys, we got story time with TrailBot. Oh, H.G. Wells' The Moth, Part 2 for us. And we's at the Dewey Bridges along the Colorado River. It's a BLM campsite. Today's drive, we're gonna head over on Utah 128 towards Moab, if you will. But we're gonna get about halfway there. We're gonna hang a left and boogie on up into the Sal Mountains. And it's a real pretty drive, especially this here bit along the river. You know, I could just go back and forth all day long along here. There's just so many good spots and things to take pictures of, you know, especially at sunset, sunrise, that kind of thing. Okay, so this short story called The Moth, we had just barely gotten started with it, and we were introduced to a couple of characters here. Pawkins, is that right? Yeah, Pawkins and Hapley, and they was two scientists who was kind of fighting it out. One had reclassified the other guy's work as junk, and they was going back and forth. So here we go here. Pawkins, in his rejoinder, suggested that Hapley's microscope was as defective as his power of observation, and called him an irresponsible meddler. Hapley was not a professor at the time. Hapley, in his retort, spoke of blundering collectors, and described as if inadvertently Pawkins's revision as a miracle of ineptitude. It was a war to the knife. However, it would scarcely interest the reader to detail how these two great men quarreled, and how the split between them widened until, from the Microlepidoptera, they were at war upon every open question of entomology. There were memorable occasions. At times the Royal Entomology Society meetings resembled nothing so much as the Chamber of Deputies. On the whole, I fancy Pawkins was nearer the truth than Hapley, but Hapley was skillful with his rhetoric, had a turn for ridicule rare in a scientific man. He was endowed with vast energy, and had a fine sense of injury in the matter of the extinguished species, while Pawkins was a man of dull presence, brassy of speech, in shape not unlike a water barrel, over conscientious with testimonials, and subjected of jobbing museum appointments. So the young men gathered round Hapley and applauded him. It was a long struggle, vicious from the beginning, and growing at last to pitiless antagonism. Wow. Man, these guys were going at it. Let's take a look at this drive. Boy, isn't that something? There's just so pretty there. And yeah, all these places right here you can pull over and just sit there and watch all the rafters all day long, kind of thing. Take pictures. There's all kinds of pull-out places. Yeah, one of the videos there, I show the map that has all the pull-out places, but that's pretty easy to find these days. So look it up, brah. All right, let's see if we can find. I lost my footnote here. Young mother. Oh yeah, pitiless antagonism. Ooh. The successive turns of fortune, now an advantage to one side and now to another. Now, Hapley tormented by some success of Pawkins, and now Pawkins outshone by Hapley, belong rather to the history of entomology than to this story. Oh, so their big fight has nothing to do with this story. So we shall see, my friend. But in 1891, Pawkins, whose health had been bad for some time, published some work upon the mesoblast of the death's head moth. What the mesoblast of the death's head moth may be does not matter a rap to this story, but the work was far below his usual standard, and gave Hapley an opening he had coveted for years. He must have worked night and day to make the most of his advantage. In an elaborate critique, he rent Pawkins to tatters. One can fancy the man's disordered black hair and his queer dark eyes flashing as he went for his antagonist, and Pawkins made a reply, halting, ineffectual, with painful gaps of silence, and yet malignant. There was no mistaking his will to wound Hapley, nor his incapacity to do it. But few of those who heard him, I was absent from that meeting, realized how ill the man was. Ooh. Okay, yeah, we're gonna pull over at one of the little spots here, and then I think we're kind of wondering where the road is, as if we miss it. But yeah, we'll go from here, and yeah, here we go. And we've already turned up the way, and we're heading up into the Sal Mountains, and also a really pretty drive. Yeah, it'd be interesting to live. There's a little community that's just kind of sprouting up here. I think they're allowing more development around the area, and you know, the roads look pretty rough. You know, it doesn't look like there's a lot of services, but I guess they kind of want to keep it that way. But this loop, this LaSalle Mountain Road loop, it's kind of a tourist thing. You know, it gets pretty busy. So I think we could probably do better. I think we could probably, like, you'll see a couple of big old fifth wheels coming down from here and stuff. Like, people genuinely try to go up here with lots of different types of vehicles. Yeah, there goes one right there. All right, so yeah, you imagine living right down here, and oof, boy, there's your views, right? You get the valley on one side there, and the mountains on the other side there. It's pretty cool. So you know what? I think we're just going to leave it right there. So we found out the guy's sick, and that's why he didn't have a very strong retort for that guy. So okay, well, thanks so much for coming along, guys. And oh boy, now there's a pretty little campsite right there. Okay, yeah, we're gonna take a couple to get through this one. Sam C. And we'll leave you with just a couple of seconds of big old Rosie, because that makes me feel good right there. You go, you old big old Rosie, you.